reflection of which you would have everyone here. Amen. All right, so we are continuing this sermon series. We're going through the Apostles' Creed, and we call it Most Certainly True, because in the small catechism, that is where it is. I didn't bring this out. I didn't bring my small catechism out. So we're going through the catechism's creed here. And it's great. Like, that's one of the reasons why we have the creed. Luther says in his large catechism is that the creed teaches us to know thoroughly what God is like. And so the creed is broken up into 3 sections. We're going to spend a Sunday on 2 weeks on every one of the 3 sections. That's 6 total weeks for those of you struggle with the math. That's all right. But you have the first part of the creed is God the Father, the Creator. And then you have God the Son, the Redeemer. And then God the Spirit, the Sanctifier. I love the stuff that's all about God the Spirit, the Sanctifier. Because when you read the creed, it kind of feels like it's just this list that you're like catching up with everything on. But it's not. It's all stuff of how the Spirit works. And so we'll get to that. It's fun. So and so we'll. Oh, it's going to be one of those Sundays. Get ready. Sorry about that. The small catechism, we have it right here. It's this giant book, the small catechism. And if you would like one of these, they cost us about $20. You can throw $20 in the offering plate. It's a great resource for us. There's also the large catechism. It is also out there. I think there's only one left, though, that's out there. I need to get some more in. I have ordered some, and they have not come in. That's part of the issue. And so they're out there. I think it costs us like $20 as well. You can order these also from Amazon, and they are less money. But we order them from CPH. But that's what's there. And this is a good summary here. So let's summarize this first article of the creed. It begins with, I believe in God the Father Almighty, maker of heaven and earth. And all you guys who grew up in the Lutheran Church, you guys still have this memorized, right? Yeah. Oh, yeah, creator of heaven and earth. Someone else had that issue too earlier. So what does this mean? Oh, yeah, all right, Blythe. Like that. That's good job. So I believe that God has made me and all creatures, and He has given me my body, my soul, eyes, ears, and all my members, my reason and all my senses, and still takes care of them. And notice the rest of this, how it's all about God sustaining us. He also gives me clothing and shoes, food and drink, house, home, wife, children, lands, animals, and all that I have. He richly and daily provides me with all that I need to support His body and life. He defends me against all danger and guards and protects me from all evil. All this He does only out of fatherly divine goodness and mercy, without any merit or worthiness in me. For all this, it is my duty to thank and praise, serve, and obey Him. This is most certainly true. Yeah, there you go. You guys got that last phrase. Yeah, like, that's good. That's good. And so, like, that's kind of what all this is about. And so last week we talked about how the creation is good. And so we like this. And then this week we're talking about how God creates and sustains the creation. That He sustains it in all it's doing and in all this stuff. That He has always sustained it. The problem is that we often forget that. We often forget that we forget that God has done all this good stuff for us. And I think the best way to see that is by going back and looking at Genesis and Exodus. Now, this is my theory on Bible instruction, right? I think if you have a good understanding of the books of Genesis and Exodus, and then you also have a working knowledge of the 4 Gospels, that you're pretty much good. That's like a good primer for the rest of the Bible, because pretty much the rest of the Bible just references Genesis and Exodus in the Gospels. All right? That's what it does. And so if you get those two, you can kind of understand how everything is kind of going and all that. So in Exodus, remember, God has freed his people from slavery. He sent Charlton Heston to stand before Yul Brynner and said, let my people go. I appreciate you laughing at that. First service didn't. Hurt my feelings. Hurt my feelings, right? So like they stand and say, let my people go, right? Like Moses stands before Pharaoh, let my people go, and God rips his people from Pharaoh's clutches, right? And pulls them out of Egypt and rescues them, even parts the Red Sea as they go through that into the wilderness and on to the promised land. And they follow a cloud by day and a pillar of fire at night. And as they're going, they're like, oh, this is so great. I can't believe God is leading and sustaining me all the days of my life. That's what they're doing, right? No. They immediately start grumbling. Like, I think it's funny that we often are like, man, if I could just see the mighty acts of God, I would believe. Sure. Yeah, like that, you know? Like, because look at how these people are. They start grumbling immediately. And they say ridiculous things. Even though God has taken them out of being slaves in the harsh work conditions, they want to go back to Egypt. And so it says this, and the Israelites said to Moses and Aaron, if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. That's quite, man, like when people come into my office, if only I had died, then listen to that last sermon of yours. Like things would have gone, hurts my feelings when people say stuff like that. You know? Like that's if only we had died by the Lord's hand in Egypt. Then we sat around pots of meat and ate all the food that we wanted. But you have brought us out in this desert to starve this entire assembly to death. My goodness. Like what an accusation there. You know, and they have this like drumbeat of like, if only we could go back. Like I don't feel like I have enough here. I need to go back, right? Well, I need to go that. Like this is still a drumbeat that we often beat. And let me tell you, there's no life in it. That we often think that if I could just go back to a certain time, go back to a certain like place, if I could just go back to that other thing, then finally I would have bliss and happiness. You've made a God out of an idol of a thing that never existed to begin with, right? You're making God out of the thing in your mind. But we do this constantly. We look back at a time when we believed that we were happier or more secure or more or anything like that. Like there's many times I'll read something that I wrote in the past. Like, man, what happened to me today? That guy was smart. You know? Like it's unreal. But we look back and see all these things. But it's all fake. It doesn't actually exist. Luther talks about this in the Catechism. And this is a quote from the pink one. Remember, the newer one that isn't pink, this is the large Catechism, it takes a lot of the life out of it. So we kind of meet this quote kind of in the middle of it, and Luther is on what I'll call a structured rant, okay? So I would not so proudly strut about insolently, I can't talk today, plumbing. You guys know what plumbing is? It's not like plumbing, you know, like all that stuff. It's like goodness and all that stuff. Plumbing ourselves as though we ourselves had produced our life. Wealth. Like we ourselves have produced our power, our honor, and the like. And as though others, therefore, must fear and serve us. Look at what I have done. Look at what I have created. I have made it all the way up to middle management, right? You know, like I have done this, you know, type of thing. Like we do this and we're like, oh, bow down, all those underneath me. Look at what I have done. And you see that. You see it all around us. And Luther continues, he says, this is the world's perverse, wicked way, drowned in its blindness. It misused all the good gifts of God solely to serve its pride, greed, pleasure, and enjoyment. Like I think that's what we do when we get angry at waiting in lines. And we look at people at the self-checkout. It's like, if you can't see the UPC symbol, just go. right? Like we see, we get so aggressive about other people and our insatiable desire to have more and more, that I must be served, I must have more. That we end up saying things that we may not say it out loud, but we're like, I'd rather go back to slavery than be here in God's provision. And for the Israelites, God hears them in this. And this is what I want you to pick up. God actually saves them during this time. But notice when he saves them, he doesn't save them when they finally got their act together. He doesn't save them when they finally stopped grumbling, right? Like he saves them in the midst of when they're being difficult people, right? Like, which is kind of the point, and I love it. So, and this is from that same story. Then the Lord said to Moses, I will rain down bread from heaven for you. The people are going to go out each day and gather enough for that day. In this way, I will test them and see whether they follow my instructions. And on the sixth day, they are to prepare what they bring in. And that is to be twice as much as they gather on the other days. Basically, manna from heaven is going to come down, pick it up, but don't pick up more than you need for that day, except on the Sabbath. Like that's kind of what he's going in there. But God is providing for them just enough for each day. That he's sustaining them. He's sustaining them. Paul picks up on this side. Remember how I talked about just Genesis and Exodus? You kind of understand those, and you realize that everything is about that same idea. Paul picks it up in the reading that Heather did just a little bit ago in 2 Corinthians. He says, now he who supplies the seed to the sower and bread for food will also supply the increase, your store of seed, and you'll enlarge the harvest of your righteousness. When you are reading that bread should stick out to you, and you're like, what bread is he talking about? And he's talking about manna. He's referencing that story. That when we believe that we don't have enough, we see that the God who made manna come down in the midst of the desert for the people, that same God will be enough for us. And it's saying that God is active even in our lives. And I know we're kind of moving fast through this. There's a point to that. The point is, so this is not a 45-minute sermon. We also confess, this is page 69 of the Large Catechism, we also confess that God the Father will not only give us all that we have and see before our eyes, but also that he daily protects and defends us against all evil and misfortune, turning aside danger and mishap of every sort. All this he does out of pure love and goodness, without our deserving it, like a kind father who takes care of us so that no harm may touch us. He does all these good things for all of us, right? And we see that with the Israelites, that God comes to them, not because they finally got their act in order, but because they needed that daily food in the midst of the wilderness. So why do we talk about all of this? It's because we want to talk about the gospel lesson today. In the gospel lesson, Jesus says, I am the bread of life. And we're like, oh, right, that's great. Yeah, I love Jesus, that you're the breath of life. That's great. That's awesome. But what does that mean? What does it mean when Jesus says that he's the bread of life? Like it's, I think you think back to old sermons that you heard back in the 50s when you're thinking right now, man, people back then knew how to preach. It's a subtle dig. It's a subtle, right? Like, and you're thinking back then, and you're like, oh, yeah, Jesus is the bread of life and all that stuff. Well, Jesus references it before. So when you read John chapter 6 and you go to the beginning of those stories that's referencing, Jesus is out with a bunch of people, and they're out in the middle of nowhere, the wilderness, and they've got nothing to eat. And his disciples are like, send these people away. And Jesus is like, no. like that. And then he takes 5 loaves and 2 fish, and he feeds the 5,000 with it. That's before this. Right? Like, so he feeds the 5,000 there, and that miracle looks weirdly like the manna coming from heaven, right? And then the miracle right after that is it's after everyone is fed and they have all that left over in John, and Jesus' disciples go out in a boat onto a lake, but Jesus didn't go out with them, and everyone wakes up the next morning, and Jesus is in the boat with the disciples, and everyone's like, oh my goodness, he walked on water. They all freak out over there. And when you read between the lines, they begin to put the story together. They're like, this Jesus is like Moses. That God is using him, and he can walk on water. He's in charge of all of this stuff. He's part of the creation, right? And they start putting all this together. You can see it. They're like, this guy is special, and they're going out of their way to say that. Then Jesus does them one better. And it says, he goes, I am the bread of life. Whoever comes to me will never grow hungry, and whoever believes in me will never grow thirsty. He's referencing, the story is pushing us to see that Jesus isn't just one that's sitting in the creation, but he is the creator himself. And he's like, that manna in the wilderness, that is like me. That is like me. And I'm providing life forever. I'm supplying your daily needs and all of that forever. And then everyone around Jesus, after he says this, and they see these miracles, they're like, Jesus, I see you feeding the 5,000. I see you saying those things. I see that you're basically saying that you're God. And everyone's like, awesome. You're amazing, Jesus. Is that what they do? No. They get mad at Jesus. They're like, this guy's not that special. This guy's not that good. Why do they get mad at Jesus? It's because he doesn't fit their perception of God. He's not fitting their perception of God. Because Jesus looks like an ordinary dude. They even say, it's like, we know who this guy's family is. Joseph is over there. It doesn't say this literally, but you can read between the lines. It's like, I was hanging out with Joseph yesterday. Believe me, that guy doesn't have anything interesting to say. You know? It's like that one guy that you worked with that told you the same story every day. You're like, thanks, Dale. You know, for saying those same things. I know who this guy is. Let me tell you, that guy's normal. He doesn't even tell good stories. But that's how God works. We saw this last week. That God doesn't pluck us out of the creation, but instead he enters into it to sustain us. God in Jesus enters into the creation, not in this powerful way, but through Mary and Joseph. And he saves us not by winning some cosmic battle where he's fighting off the demons in the heavens and with where he's got oiled up, rippling muscles all around him. That's not the image of Jesus, even though I see that image a lot, I feel like, on social media that people post now. That's not how he saves us. But he comes and he dies on the cross. Which, when you think about the cross, it's a small thing. But yet it's everything. God comes into our struggle, into our pain, and he dies with us so that we can actually be sustained. And he rises again on that Easter morning, bringing us to eternal life in his resurrection. And Luther does this all the time, and this is one of the reasons why I'm still in the Lutheran Church, to be honest with you, is that there's this distinction of how our mundane, ordinary lives, how it connects to the Creator in it. This morning, I hit the snooze 3 times before I got up. Right? I did. It doesn't happen every Sunday, but this Sunday that was the case. I hit the snooze. And think about it, just the mundane. You got to go to work. This is a working day for me, by the way. You got to go to work, and you got to do all these things, and you're hitting the snooze. You're like, all those things. And yet, when we rise up in the morning in that mundane, it reminds us of God raising from the dead. This is what the point is. This is what the point. And Paul uses that too. I invite you to read it on your own. We're going to continue going through. I'm running out of time is what that means. God sustains us in the mundane. And where I think this is so well shown is it's a way we teach the Lord's Prayer. And we teach it about, give us this day our daily bread, which I think is the best way to show how God sustains us. Now, if you've been in a new member class recently, you've heard this, or if you spend a lot of time with me in confirmation, right, Kyler? And like that, you've seen this too. But I love going through this exercise of what it means to get our daily bread, right? Because oftentimes we are like, I want to see God working in these big ways. But how does God sustain us? So we got to do this exercise really fast. How do we get our daily bread? So what we need to do is we need to think, what is peak bread? We have to establish what peak bread is. What is peak bread? What's the best bread? No one wants to answer there. It's Fruity Pebbles. You guys know this. Fruity Pebbles, Fruity Pebbles are peak bread. It doesn't get any better than Fruity Pebbles. You guys know this. That's. I don't like the angry faces I got right now. I'm not a fan of that. But Fruity Pebbles, and you're sitting there with Fruity Pebbles, let's say you're sitting on your couch, and you're like, I would like the bread of the gods. And you're like, I want some Fruity Pebbles. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and my couch is like, I want to get some, so I need to go to the store and get some. What does it take to get there? So let's say you stand up on your couch, and you go out to your car. Great. Where did the car come from? Where did it come from? Think about all the hands that it took for you to have that car, from the tire that's made out of a rubber compound to all the sealants and the oil and and all of the batteries that it takes and the graphene and all that stuff it takes to move your car down the road. That's all your cars move down the road, right? Like that. All the stuff that propels it, all the upholstery, all the electronics, all that stuff. That's like the whole world is involved in the assembly of your car. You think about all of that stuff, right? You think about how all that stuff, and that's just your car. And then you want to get in it, and you back it up, and you back it onto the road. Where did the road come from? You think about all the stuff that has to be mined and out of the ore and the ground and the tar made and all that stuff, and they have to hire people to smooth it and grade it and put drainage in so it doesn't just flood every time and all that stuff. So think about the thousands of people that it took to just pave the road to your local Publix, right? Or Aldi or wherever you go. You can't buy Fruity Pebbles at Aldi. But then you go out from there. And think about what it takes to drive on the road. It takes good government so that you don't have to go with an armored vehicle to get out there because someone wants to steal you as you get out of there, right? It takes all the people in our local government and all that stuff to be in there. And then you finally get to the Walmart neighborhood market that has terrible self-checkouts. You finally get there and you walk in, and how many people, we haven't even talked about the product yet. Right? And we're at, even before we get to the product, we're at millions of people that have touched it. All the little things to get us to there. And then you get to that product, and you're talking about farmers and laborers and truck drivers and all this stuff, even to the people that work in the store that put it onto the shelves. All these things that work together, and we're like, oh, that's just supply chain management. Yeah. Read the large catechism. Read the small catechism. It says it all there. That God gives us the gloriousness of Fruity Pebbles. He gives it through our ordinary people and their various vocations. God works through you no matter what you do or what you used to do. Whether you're a nurse, teacher, baker, mechanic, I don't know what you do. Whether you volunteer, a father, mother, whatever it is. Like daily bread flows through your hands to your neighbor. So what does all this mean? What does all this mean? That God works through the creation. That we might be sustained by those humble plants in the field, but also those small acts of work of all those normal people around us that enable us to live. But I hear people all the time, I want to see God work in a big way. Have you been to the local market recently? It's amazing, right? It's amazing. Let us not take it for granted. And let us be grateful that so many of us, that we have it, that we can complain about which direction the UPC is faced, right? What a thankful way to live. So let's be humble and thankful and generous, for He daily and richly provides all that we need. For I believe in God the Father Almighty, the maker of heaven and earth. This is most certainly true. Let's say a prayer. God, we thank you that you love us and that you always are watching over us. Lord, give us a heart of gratefulness as we see how you work out through all of your creation. And Lord, let us see how we are part of that we may be grateful and generous as well. Thank you, Jesus. Amen. We'll sing our next song.